This video is brought to you by Boot.dev. Learn back-end web development the real way by actually doing it and open the door to a new career on your own terms. Click the link below and use offer code SKILLUP at checkout to get 25% off an annual subscription. More details after the video. We'd earlier covered Dispatch with an in-progress review from Austin a few weeks ago. That was based on only the first 2 episodes of the game though. When it came time to do a full review, I was like, Austin, I'm gonna take the wheel on this one because I was just so blown away by Dispatch that I really wanted to talk about it. You wanna know how good Dispatch is? Dispatch is so good that there isn't even discourse around its lack of actual gameplay. No one gives a fuck. We're just glad to have met these characters and see this story brought to life through these incredible performances, this stunning art, and this goddamn animation. How the hell did they make it look this good?
I'm no hero. Fuck, no, let me try that again.
I honestly wasn't paying close attention to Dispatch as it was coming up. It was promising to be yet another game by some people who used to work at Telltale, and I feel like there's been a few of those over the years and none of them have really lived up to the legacy of that studio, but I definitely wasn't paying close enough attention, I think, because it turns out that some of the central talent behind some of my favorite Telltale games went on to form Ad Hoc Studio. Pierre Charette, Michael Chuang, Nick Herman, and Dennis Leonard all worked as writers and or directors on games like Wolf Among Us, The Walking Dead series, Tales from the Borderlands, and more. After Telltale collapsed, they did things with different developers and publishers before deciding to form their own outfit in 2018. What was their first project? Well, remember Bandersnatch, that Black Mirror choose your own adventure thing that popped off back in 2018? Well, Ad Hoc had an idea to do that, but an office-style procedural featuring superheroes. Oh, and it would also be live action rather than animated. In an interview on our podcast, Friends Per Second, Nick Herman and Pierre Charette talked about those humble beginnings.
Stepping back further to like the impetus of Dispatch, I think it did start out as like mashing up like just the most popular things on earth, you know, like at the time, like just thinking about it, like because we were thinking about this as a live action thing, we knew that we were going to have to control on budget. So it being a superhero thing, but while maintaining an office sort of feel, meant that we could shoot mostly in an office and maybe figure out a clever way to, you know, watch the superhero stuff happening through like surveillance cameras, right? That then you have a little bit more leeway
of film and grain and things that we could hide some cheap VFX behind.
I personally would have loved to have seen a live action Dispatch, not gonna lie, but that dream quickly collapsed in March 2020 when shooting was just about to begin and the world suddenly went into COVID lockdown. At that point, the team pivoted to animation and partnered with the Thailand-based Igloo Studio, who had previously produced a series for Netflix called My Damon. The art and animation in Dispatch is a central part of its appeal. The character designs are brilliant in that you can guess their personalities and voices just by looking at them. Characterization just leaps out from these designs. They are so good that I would happily buy an actual comic that would let me see these characters drawn more regularly, especially given that most of them only has a very limited amount of time in the spotlight during the game's runtime. But seeing these characters in motion is frankly everything. This is a game where you'll sit through some fairly ho-hum gameplay segments so that you can get back to the cutscenes, and when you do, you're never ever disappointed. The action is one thing. It's thrilling, high production value spectacle for sure, but it's actually the more intimate and human moments where I feel like the animation really shines. Here, Ad Hoc and Igloo were able to render something very real with their animation. The subtleties of emotion are communicated so convincingly in every frame. TV and movie animation does this regularly, but it's a real treat to see it in a video game, where animations are often used as a cost-saving measure to avoid doing in-engine or CG cutscenes. We're so used to seeing those fading animated stills that pan and fade and whatever. So to see this level of animation quality in a video game was just such a nice surprise. It's also no doubt one of the biggest reasons for Dispatch's outsized success. I've recommended Dispatch to so many people I know who don't regularly play video games because I know that the minute they boot it up, they're going to be greeted by something that looks like an animated TV show at the level of quality you'd expect from an animated TV show.
Figures.
the real thing you get when you suit up for dispatch is writing at the level of quality you'd expect from a TV show or a movie or a book. And this is a complicated topic to unpack because the video game medium often necessitates a different type of writing that doesn't flow as naturally as it might in TV or films. When you need to spread a script out over 50 hours of gameplay, that can be hard. And for every Red Dead Redemption 2 that manages to pull it off magnificently, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of other games that stumble. Sometimes that's to do with the inherent quality of the writing, and sometimes it's about the constraints imposed by the video game medium, and sometimes it's both. But I would say that generally speaking, we don't have very high expectations when it comes to writing in video games. Or perhaps it's more accurate to say that we have much higher expectations of things like graphics and controls and game design than we do of writing, because video games often hit very high quality bars when it comes to those other things, whereas truly great video game writing comes along just a handful of times a year if we're lucky. Dispatch is one of those times. From the very moment it begins, you can tell that the people who wrote this knew exactly what they were doing. You simply cannot meet a character and not fall in love with them almost instantly. They have such personality and voice and depth, and they're funny and they feel like real people, many of whom each nurse some sort of grief or trauma or anxiety, but that surfaces so naturally rather than being exposition dumped on you. I'm really reluctant to pick out a specific character because they're all great, but I think Royd is kind of the low-key mascot of the entire dispatch experience because he's not a superhero, but he kind of is, and he's not part of the Z team, but he kind of is, and he's obviously there as comic relief, but he's deep and earnest and real. To me, he represents the full breadth of what dispatch accomplishes. It takes a character that looks like a caricature, and then it shows you that this is actually a real person, and this person will make you laugh just as easily as they can make you cry, or cry laughing, any of those.
Cool. You gonna wash before you do that?
Nah, bro, I never touch nothing. Just touch my pants and underwear only. Even for shake, I just do like this.
Can you show me again? I don't think I got it.
The way each of these characters has been brought to life through voice performances is another thing that sets Dispatch apart, since Ad Hoc took some big swings with their casting. I mean, you've got established voice actor talent like Laura Bailey and Matt Mercer in the mix, and you can always expect exceptional quality from them. Jeffrey Wright of Westworld and Batman fame plays Chase, and he gives a really nice, playful performance that eventually blossoms into one of the most affecting moments in the entire game. Not gonna lie, I cried. If you know, you know. But man, Aaron Paul as Robert Robertson. I've actually never seen him in anything outside of Breaking Bad. And if you hadn't told me that it was Aaron Paul playing Robert, I wouldn't have guessed it. He gives such an incredible performance here. Like, you just feel how broken he is at the start of this journey, and you can hear him being rebuilt brick by brick in the performance that Paul gives. As each episode gives Robert more and more things to lean on, it's such a subtle performance when so much video game voice acting is about yelling over the top of things or responding to world-ending stakes. Stuck in a little office talking to his team through a headset or in a boardroom, Paul is able to imbue this tiny little story about a group of outcasts and ne'er-do-wells with so much emotional ballast.
We don't kick people when they're down. We lift them up, and I believe of her what I believe of all of you, that her heart is in the right place. It's what took us from being a team to being this weird, fucked up family. Look, you're hurting. Okay, I get it. I'm hurting. We are all hurting. Now isn't the time to cast blame. It's the time to come together and heal.
The riskiest casting by far was the decision to put YouTubers and streamers into the game, something that Ad Hoc say was a result of the game's pandemic origins. Back then, the team were watching a lot of streams because they were stuck in their houses feeling lonely, and Charlie, aka Moist Critical, was the one that really inspired Pierre to push for the inclusion of these internet celebrities, because he thought Charlie was just talented in his own right, and also because the team wanted to make a statement about the very nature of Dispatch with this casting.
We knew pretty early on that we were going to have one or two kind of Hollywood people involved. And we didn't want this to feel, we didn't want it to look like, we're doing like weird, dumb, like, we're just casting this guy because he's famous and everyone's now going to buy our game. And weirdly, bringing in streamers is an attempt to also kind of like mash those two things together and say like, no, this is a blend of games, TV, film. Like it's a weird product already. So let's, embrace that in the casting.
Reflecting on what Nick says, I think he's spot on. Dispatch could have been an all-Hollywood affair. Anya Taylor-Joy voicing Malevola, Pedro Pascal voicing Flambe, The Rock voicing Phenomenon. The fact that these content creators were included in this way makes Dispatch feel like something that celebrates and embraces its video gameness, rather than it being something that's trying to impress Hollywood types or Netflix executives. It feels very comfortable in its own skin. Obviously, this was a real gamble since content creators are not trained voice actors, but they crushed it. And honestly, Charlie in particular turns in a really solid, really funny performance. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on to do other stuff in the future.
Sonar, you all right? Why are you sending a distress call when you haven't left the building?
Could you send a locksmith downstairs?
What happened?
Coop seduced me.
No. I said, hey, want to see something cool, and then handcuffed you to a squat rack.
But you said it with a hot voice, so I assumed you meant boobs.
Okay, team, I know Blazer mentioned someone's getting cut, but don't let that distract you from doing a good job out there. That's what you'll be judged on.
What a bunch of bullshit.
Recently, in our team Discord, someone asked, hey, my girlfriend wants to play a game with some good romance in it. Any suggestions? The suggestions that came back weren't great, and that wasn't a reflection on the people making the suggestions. It's simply the case that video games rarely have good romances. And I don't mean RPG dialogue options that let you bed companions, because frankly, I find that stuff really lame most of the time. Like, someone who watches a lot of rom-coms or reads romance novels or whatever, I wouldn't be like, oh, you should play Mass Effect or Dragon Age. Those sorts of RPGs and JRPGs tend to treat romances as like gameplay devices rather than true narrative tools. And it's one of the biggest reasons that I'm interested in GTA 6, because you got this Bonnie and Clyde thing going on, and I suspect we're going to see something pretty real there. Now look, I don't play visual novels, and I know they do some really good work in this space, but Dispatch is basically the only game I've played where its approach to romance is thoughtful and authentic and tender and interesting and feels kind of real. Obviously, the choice to go with Blazer or Vizzy is a central gameplay decision, but because all these characters are so well written and so well performed, and because your relationship to them is both personal and professional, and because there's almost never a clearly right or wrong answer, this feels like so much more than just a gameplay conceit. This love triangle, quaint as it is, stands out as one of the best examples of romance you can experience in any video game. Full stop. Again, someone who doesn't play a lot of games, but loves them some Love Island or Love Actually or whatever, I would recommend Dispatch in a heartbeat, because there's a great rom-com storyline here that's worth experiencing, one where they get to choose how it ends, and that's something that Love Actually can never give you, no matter how many times you watch it.
We can work with this.
The fact that Dispatch was episodic really matters. It's a content format that used to be quite common back when Telltale and Don't Nod were in their prime, but over the last decade, it's fallen out of vogue. That just so happened to be the same decade when Netflix took over and began the awful, awful practice of dropping entire seasons in one go, so you'll binge them, talk about them once at the water cooler, and then never mention them again. But the drip, drip, drip of episodic television allows a piece of media to percolate in our minds and diffuse across the culture. The zeitgeist is more fun when it's doled out to us a little bit at a time. We're never going to have it as good as those early seasons of Game of Thrones ever again. It's still worth trying to recapture at least a little bit of that magic, and Dispatch did just that, as its 4-week release timing kept it in the headlines and allowed cliffhangers to actually hang and allowed people to share reactions and theories and do additional playthroughs making different choices. I remember there being a lot of discourse about the episodic format back in the day, with some arguing that it felt like a cheap, hacky way to inflate engagement, but history has proven that view short-sighted and cynical, and Dispatch is a reminder that when it comes to enjoying things, anticipation can be a pretty important part of that enjoyment.
How long was the last dispatcher here?
2 days. New record.
How the fuck did that happen?
I set this car on fire. Yeah. Very flammable. Kia Soul.
I think my most controversial Dispatch opinion is that I really like the gameplay. It's not very good, don't get me wrong, but I liked it because thematically it works and it can be spliced in between cutscene moments organically, and it allows the cast to have some back and forth banter, which is always fun to listen to. But more than anything else, I just really like matching up the stats of my heroes to the job at hand. I really like making use of their synergies and power-ups. I really like leveling up my heroes so I can craft a squad that's efficient and versatile. I like seeing that green tick appear denoting a job well done. Hell, I even like the hacking minigame. That's how much of a weirdo I am. One of the things I like about it most is that it's full of little flourishes that reward you for actually paying attention to it. There are little subplots that play out in the mission text that award achievements. There are certain heroes who want to go on certain missions, and letting them do so will always reward some interesting little bit of exposition or silliness. Some of the mission outcomes or hero levels can actually impact what happens in the main storyline. It's not a lot, but it's enough that you can sense that this isn't just a basic ass minigame that Ad Hoc crammed in, so Dispatch could still be called a video game. Having said that, it does feel extremely prototype when compared to the rest of the package. The Dispatch interface lacks any of the styling or pizzazz that oozes from the rest of the game. It looks almost placeholder when compared to the cutscenes, and when combined with the muted soundscape and the lack of mission-based cutscenes or animations, these gameplay sections stand out in a way that they probably shouldn't in the overall Dispatch package. Its saving grace is that it's extremely right-sized. The Dispatch sections never last for too long, but nor are they too short. They're perfect pacing, giving you a little more of that thing I spoke about a moment ago, anticipation. If Dispatch was just back-to-back cutscenes all of the time, I don't think the game would have been better for it. These little page breaks allow us to reflect on events that just transpired, and in many instances, the heroes will directly reference those events as they're on their way to a mission. The same way that we can save a Dispatch episodically and have water cooler moments, the heroes themselves get to have their own water cooler moments in the break room between missions, gossiping and theorizing in the same way that we do.
I had no idea Blazer was such a heartbreaker.
Is that surprising?
I'm just impressed. Didn't think she had it in her.
To finish, I want to highlight two things because I really want you to experience this video game, and I think hearing this stuff is going to convince you, okay? All right, first up, this is a debut game from a new outfit. It's self-published, and the people behind it seem pretty damn cool. Dispatch has sold 2 million copies at this point, but the team view their success through a slightly different lens.
You know, we sold a lot of units, but I actually think that the amount of fans of Dispatch, because of streaming, because of like YouTube, is actually like orders of magnitude larger than our sales numbers. And that is such a strange place to be, because during the Telltale era, I think people thought of streamers as like, oh, well, people are streaming it, so no one's going to buy it, or this is bad for us because they can see everything.
Feeding off
they're taking away.
Yeah.
No, they're making more money off of this game than I did, which was true in many cases early on. We weren't getting paid great at Telltale when we started. And nowadays, we're sort of like, it's just reaching, we just want people to find it. Like I see comments where people are like, I can't afford this now. It's like, well, just hang out, chill out, watch it with your favorite streamer, like all good. You know what I mean? Like come meet us where you are. Like we don't need to, we're not worried about that aspect of it anymore. Certainly not now. You know, and I think that we're happy for people to just enjoy it in whatever way they want to.
So that's this team being like, don't worry about buying our game, man. Just experience it however you can. That is a cool sentiment, and I think it's worth supporting people who put that kind of energy out into the world. Secondly, the Golden Joystick Awards were recently held, and as expected, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 won basically every award. But during his acceptance speech for the Best Storytelling category, Guillaume Broche concluded with this.
And also play Dispatch. It's very, very cool and has a very good story if you like this one.
That was the first speech of the night and the first award that Clair Obscur took home during this award season. And the game's creative director wanted to share that moment and that spotlight with Dispatch, because he's 100% right, man. If you like beautifully written games that move you, that make you think, that make you laugh, that make you long to spend more time with the characters, Dispatch is unmissable. Like, it's just absolutely unmissable. It is such a standout, breakthrough piece of storytelling in the video game medium, while also being like really chill and down to earth and relatable, despite the fact that it's about superheroes. It's some of the best money you can spend on a piece of entertainment right now. It's for the cynics who think they've seen and played it all before, just as much as it's for the person who has never picked up a video game in their entire life. It is for absolutely everybody, and I strongly recommend it to you. This video is brought to you by Boot.dev, the best online learning platform for people who want to learn back-end web development. Boot.dev's philosophy is a simple one. In an era of AI-assisted vibe coding, the fundamentals matter more than ever before, while fewer and fewer people are actually taking the time to learn them. That puts those truly skilled web developers in a powerful position, since they're the ones that companies are going to seek out when they need someone who can actually get the job done properly. And companies will pay for that. And this is one of the most compelling reasons to check out Boot.dev. It's a platform that teaches you the skills you need to start a new career, one that pays well and that often lets you work from home, and that lets you choose where you work, since so many companies are in need of skilled web developers. Boot.dev has dozens of courses teaching you how to work in Python, SQL, Go, and more, and all of the learning content is free to read and watch. So you can sign up right now and start looking at it for free, no strings attached. But that content will only get you so far, since learning web development is more about doing than watching, and that's where Boot.dev really kicks into gear. Its subscription tier gives you access to hands-on coding exercises so you can practice your skills, accompanied by an AI assistant who won't give you the answers, but will instead give you prompting questions so you can arrive at the answer yourself. And if you want to go even further, their Discord is a thriving community full of people eager to help you learn. Boot.dev has dozens of courses to choose from, as well as a gamified approach to learning that gives you challenges, awards XP, and even has a leaderboard so you can track your progress and compete with other students. How many students, you ask? Over 820,000, and you can read reviews from many of them on the Boot.dev website. In fact, I really recommend doing a quick Google search for reviews of Boot.dev, particularly Reddit threads of people who have used the product extensively. You're going to see a lot of positive sentiment from people who have both no coding experience whatsoever and extensive coding experience, and the fact that this platform can impress both of those categories of people is quite an achievement. But don't take my word for it. As I've said, all the learning content on Boot.dev is free to view, so you can sign up right now and check it out, no strings attached. And in fact, each of the modules has a free demo for the paid interactive learning elements, so you can try before you buy. True learning is all about doing, and so signing up for the subscription tier gives you access to the interactive tools and exercises, and Boot.dev are offering a special discount to viewers of this channel. Just click the link below and use offer code SKILLUP at checkout to get 25% off an annual subscription. That's a huge discount and only available for a limited time. Plus, there's also a 30-day money-back satisfaction guarantee. So if you aren't happy for any reason at all, just get your money back, no questions asked. Click below in either the description or the pinned comment and use offer code SKILLUP for that 25% off an annual plan. Thanks to Boot.dev for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching it.